Hello YouTube, my name's Chris, and today I decided that I was going to make some videos on some of the math that you might find on, well, you will find actually, because I took the ESCO hosted electrical troubleshooting and servicing HVAC electrical systems. I took this test last week, barely passed, missed it by one. But what I saw was that at least 20 of the 100 questions were just pure math and electrical math for that matter. Things like Ohm's law, measuring resistance within a series and parallel circuit, calculating amperage, calculating voltage, and also I didn't see this, but I expect it to be on the next exam, and that might be calculating capacitance. But there are some tricks to learning this, and I decided that I was going to make a video to help my fellow classmates out, maybe for those who aren't too strong with math, but I hope this video helps. And for starters, I just want to go over some basics. This is Ohm's law right here. I hope you can see. Let's see how this works. So Ohm's law, that's O-H-M, and that was his law, and that says that I, which stands for intensity, is equal to voltage. You're using the variable E, also known as potential or electromagnetic forces, over divided by resistance, R, also known as ohms. And so, okay, good, shut up. This is Ohm's law, and it's basically the most frequently used math equation that I noticed on the test. And a lot of guys like the pie chart. That's where you go. See if I remember how to do that. If you're trying to solve for, let me look in the book because I actually don't use the pie chart too well. Pie chart says if you take E, which is voltage, and you take I down here and draw an R like that, make a circle out of it, because I guess they have some handy dandy charts that you can use. Whatever you're trying to solve for, you just cover up. So if I didn't want to derive how to solve for resistance out of this algebra equation, I just cover up R, resistance, and that's voltage divided by amperage. If I wanted to find voltage, I just cover this up, and that's intensity, amperage, times the resistance. So the pie chart's really nifty, and I recommend using it if your algebra skills aren't too sharp, and even if you're just in a hurry, because it's a lot easier than just deriving all these formulas out of this. So it's a lot simpler, and it's probably a much better system. So we have amperage, intensity, voltage, electromagnetic forces or potential, and resistance, known as ohms. So that was the most common math equation that I saw on there, and how it was used on the exam was, or the test, the certification test was, for example, maybe I was given a circuit like this, and down here was the switch, and here's the motor. Okay, it's coming across up here. Let's say it was a 120 volt power source, not a motor, excuse me. That's the power source, 120 volt power source, and this entire circuit, it has a resistance of, I'm just throwing an arbitrary number up here, 20 ohms. So you're given voltage, you're given ohms, and we want to solve for that last unknown. And the way Ohm's law works is, if you have two knowns and one unknown, you can solve. But if you're missing a known, for example, if I only had voltage but I didn't have ohms, I couldn't solve for the other two. You need to have two knowns. in order to solve for the unknown. So remember, Ohm's law is intensity is equal to voltage. I'm going to use the E, not V. E over the resistance. So this can be solved using Ohm's law, and that is, we know the voltage, so we'll say 120 volts divided by the resistance, which is 20 ohms, and by using division we can solve for that. I like to do, whenever I have math, I like to make it as simple as possible. So if I have zeros, cross out the zeros, makes it a lot easier. Now you just have a simple division. 12 divided by 2, 6. And that 6 is our last value that we didn't have, so that 6 must be amps. So we have 6 amps. So that was how we solved this simple Ohm's law problem. And you could do another one where, let's say we didn't know the voltage. So I'm going to erase my 120, erase my 20 ohms, and let's say we didn't know the voltage that was coming out of this power supply, but we knew that the system was pulling, and generally you have a load in here, so let's put a load like that. I guess I kind of probably should have said that sooner. A circuit has a switch, power supply, and a load, and that's very important, but I'm not getting into loads yet. That's going to be important later. So this system's pulling, let's say it's pulling 10 amps, and it's got a resistance in it of 5 ohms. So that's legible. Alright, so 10 amps, 5 ohms. Well, now we just kind of plug in our numbers into our equation here. So if we know I, which is intensity, amperage is intensity, we could just say 10 amps is equal to voltage, which was our unknown. The voltage we don't know. We want to solve for this guy right here. We don't know what voltage is. So we'll put the E up there and the R on the bottom, which is 5 ohms. Okay, so now we're just solving for E. Now, if we were using our pie chart, which I'm sure a lot of you want to use, we can do it like this. Let us erase this for a second. Okay, so we'll use our pie chart, which we said was E slash, and this was I and R. So we're solving for E this time. So let's cover up E. If we multiply the amperage by the resistance, that should give us our voltage. So 10 times the 5 should be 50 volts. There's 50 volts coming out of this power supply. Now these are just arbitrary numbers. I just made them up off the top of my head. Probably in real life you won't see 50 volts coming off the power supply. Maybe you will, maybe you won't. I don't know yet. But these are just simple numbers how to calculate this sort of Ohm's law equation. And it's pretty much straightforward. I like the pie chart now that I'm using it more. It's pretty simple. And that's that for Ohm's law.